Order the Berlin Planning Commission meeting for September 10th, 2025. Can I get a motion to adopt this evening's agenda?
Motion. Second.
Approval of the minutes of July 16th, 2025. Does anyone have any concerns?
Make a motion to approve this.
There's one motion to approve. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Agenda item number 4, case PC 9-10-25-06, Prospect Drive, Purnell Crossing, Phase 5, preliminary subdivision. Come forward, introduce yourselves. You go ahead and make the presentation.
Before that, I'm going to recuse myself, so
Logan, you can come up, take a nude seat.
We have no objections, you say.
I'm not worried about this.
You want us to proceed, Mr. Chairman?
That would be great.
So for the record, Mark Spencer Cropper, 6200 Coastal Highway, Suite 200, Ocean City, Maryland. Mr. Purnell, identify yourself for the record.
Troy Purnell, PPLLC in Woodway Farm.
And you're here on behalf of the
Both.
property, you are the property owner. Okay, great. Both entities that own the property. And for the benefit of some of the planning commission members, the property that's the subject of this hearing was and is part of the original Purnell Crossing planned unit development that was approved back in 2007. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as part of that approval, there is the plan unit development approval, and then there have been various phases, including a condominium phasing plan for a different area, but this was noted as future development on that original plan unit development that got approved, correct?
Correct.
And years ago, you proceeded to get the approvals to record the various lots that you're now seeking to carve off of this so that you can record what the planning commission is going to review this evening.
Correct.
Back then, and I forget how many years ago, did you and Ms. Banbury work on this?
A long time.
Essentially, you had a laundry list of things that were being required to record the subdivision plat, and you completed about 148 out of the 150, is that correct?
Exactly.
But what you're seeking to do, you don't know whether you're going to develop this or whether you're going to sell this to another developer, is that correct?
At this time.
So in all candor, you don't know ultimately what's going to go there, correct?
I know what we're planning on putting in.
But that obviously could change. So what you're seeking to do is get this preliminary subdivision plat approved so that you can record it, and then once it ultimately gets determined what's going to go on this parcel, then whatever remains to be done to develop the parcel will occur at that time.
Correct.
Explain to the planning commission in your own words what you're doing.
Pretty much what happened, if you all look at the plat here, we've gone ahead and drawn 3 different parcels. You get the screen together, high cat.
Just let us know which one you like.
What's the back one or 2? One more. There you go. That probably shows you the best overall picture right there of what we're going to be developing in the future. As you see, what we've done on the minor subdivision and the boundary line adjustment, if you look at that right there, you'll see up the top right says boundary line. At one point, we had sold this parcel off to Coastal Hospice. Coastal Hospice had bought it. They found another place they wanted to do something else with, so I bought it back. And now what I've done is I have incorporated all this and redone that to include that boundary line that used to be the hospice parcel, and gone ahead and included it to make phase 5 the entire parcel. The As per the code, the town gets deeded the roadways once they are constructed, and I've shown that as extending the road, which is already existing, up to the beginning of phase 5. I carved it off into...
And that's Prospect Drive.
That's Prospect Drive, correct. Right now, there's a temporary cul-de-sac when you drive down there, and we're just going to be extending that on for another half acre or so. But that is the boundary of what will be deeded to the town. So I went ahead and drew the stormwater management lands,
Which is shown as tract F.
tract
right?
F, correct.
And then the road,
Yep,
and then the bounds.
and the balance of it.
Those are the 3 parcels that you're describing that you're asking be approved, correct?
Correct.
And then your intention is to record that so that you could then next proceed toward whatever development activities you're going to take place.
Correct. We need to go ahead and establish this lines now in order to go forward. We are very, very close as far as design drawings, construction drawings, and everything else. There's a few, the stormwater plan has been approved. I believe they've spoken with Ryan, and they said, okay, everything's fine, nothing's changed since the last approval. Davis Bone Fidel still has a couple items that they need me to take care of. We talked about that yesterday, and we're working on that with staff and DPF to get that taken care of as soon as possible. That's kind of in a nutshell.
A couple questions. Is this going to be like a community with its own HOA? Is it going to be a community
With its own
with its own
HOA.
HOA?
As far as it is right now, we were planning on doing it the same way we did the phases before. There will be deed restrictions, but as far as an HOA, no.
Okay. And then with these properties, these development, who owns the repairs to the road, sewer, and water?
That will be the town's responsibility.
Like the town.
We'll turn that all over to the town. As far as the stormwater management, there will be a stormwater management association form. You're familiar with this. It's be formed for an entity of all the owners will share in any maintenance, any future costs that would take to do that.
And I get things change, but currently is it 20 single-family homes? Is that what
That's
it
correct.
is?
And that's that's pretty much showing here.
Mhm.
And we still have to go get a record plat, meets and bounds, stormwater management agreements, bonding or not, depending if we build it or if we bond it. You will see this again. And next time you see it, it'll look like that. That's the plan right today.
And this is coming off, if you go down Prospect Bay, this is coming right past those 2, I'm going to call them modern houses.
Yeah.
I love them, but.
Right on the
that's what it
right-hand
is.
side there, that is where you see the turn of the road right down there where it says lands of Jason Smith and Kara Smith. That's one of those houses.
Okay.
And then that's going to make the right-hand turn. You can see right on the plan that's up there on the screen right now, that's the right-hand turn that will ultimately be built. And that roadway will ultimately be deeded over the town as well.
You guys have any questions?
Yeah, a lot of people were going to the north arrow in 7 different ways, on 7 different sheets.
No, well, Prospect Drive, then go where the current cul-de-sac is and then make a sharp right.
No, well, right now, that is what's being proposed right in the future. Right now, just that roadway is going to go down and where the temporary cul-de-sac will be moved to the end of it in the construction drawings. The plan is for this to continue to work its way around the rest of the parcel.
temporary cul-de-sac where it meets that phase 6.
Right, exactly, exactly. We went ahead and included that one larger lot in there because that is where the stormwater outfall is.
The 29.
Yes.
That can be a buildable lot at some point.
Oh, I hope so. And the stormwater management plan that's been designed so far does incorporate phase 5 and 6.
How big, and this isn't pertinent here, but how big is the entire original PUD? How many units are? Do you know?
That's a good question. It's
It's
changed.
a ballpark, right?
It's about 240 units altogether.
240. And do you know what you're at now?
Oh, God.
I mean, you got like 150, and you think you're like 90
Seven,
more?
there's 7, there's gonna be 26 here. Most of them are townhouses, there's also condos. Not condos, but apartments that are in the, I should have brought the master plan.
It doesn't have individual.
Yeah.
This shows the areas.
Right. And when we did draw the whole thing up. It was about 200.
You've already built about 200?
It was about 200, yeah. Most of them are townhouses. Majority of the density, there's 2, 3-story apartment buildings that are on there, and they're way on the far west side of the whole entire area.
Harry, got a question down there?
I guess it was just clarification. Yeah, you said you weren't positive if you were going to sell this.
I'm sorry?
You weren't positive if you were going to sell this or not, but
I'm sure.
but the roads are going in.
I'm sorry?
But the roads are going in.
Well,
Definitively?
if I sell it, someone else is going to be building all those roads.
Yeah.
If I do it myself, I'm going to be building them.
Yeah.
Derek, you have anything else? Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move that we approve
Preliminary,
subdivision, yes.
is there a second?
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Item number 5, case PC-9-10-25-07, 534 to 540 Bay Street, that's the Bottle Branch Road, preliminary subdivision review. You guys can come up, introduce yourself, and show us what you're looking to do.
My name is Eric Davis, I'm the owner. I'm Jason Lindsay, I'm with Land River Associates, the engineer. So you guys are probably familiar with this property down on Bay Street. We were here about a year and a half ago, I think, for another project. What we're planning to do now is to subdivide it into 4 lots rather than the duplex townhomes. If you look on the sheet, the preliminary plat was prepared, C-102 shows the lots. One's going to be a larger lot with a flag situation going up to Bay Street, and the other 3 are just going to directly abut Bay Street. There are 3 structures on the site now. It's not clear right now whether those are going to be demoed or remodeled. Lot 2 does not have a structure on it. And we have included a proposed driveway back to that flag line.
So previously you guys were here, was it like 12 townhouses or 6 double duplexes? Anything change? Like a reason pivoting to this?
Well, so we had some issues with the stormwater management consultant. They were requiring us to obtain an easement from Decatur Farms, the subdivision to the south and to the east, to discharge stormwater onto their property as it travels to Bottle Ranch, which is about 500 feet to the east. We did not anticipate this comment, as we had not really ever encountered this before, and we had a project to be done in Berlin. So it kind of threw us in, a curveball. And we worked with, we tried to work with EA, we used the natural discharge point of the property. We were able to reduce the 10-year peak discharge rate and match the 2-year discharge rate, which is per the stormwater regulations. We presented this to Decatur Farms, and they flat out said no. So,
Kind of like that project.
so yeah.
Kind of like to
And-
broaden the discussion here and like that. I spoke with Chris Carball today, we told me what's happening. I like the formal project.
I do too.
I did too.
And I think the other one wants to do it.
Eric, do you still have interest in the previous one, or are you just over at this point?
I'm a bit frustrated, to be honest with you.
Understandably.
I'm tens of thousands of dollars deep.
Here's my understanding of what happened to them, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, generally you're entitled to the natural flow of your water, which is what we have here. So the water from this site flows across Decatur Farms, naturally.
I should also mention that there are a few sites upstream of this site to the west that also have to discharge onto this property. And then they also discharge easterly towards Bottle Ranch. And we actually took that into account in our design.
So when you did your stormwater design and did all your calculations, you showed that you are actually reducing the off-site flow to Decatur Farms.
And not only are we reducing the flow, we're improving the quality of the water through the use of the BMP that we have.
I mean, I would like to understand what the town's engineer is thinking. To me, this is a precedent we ought to be thinking about. We're going to require developers to get easements for the flow of their water off their site. It's a natural flow. It's not creating a new flow. It's using the natural courses that are lowlands, I assume, on Decatur Farms. How do you deny a person the right to develop their land if they're complying with stormwater runoff? And in this case, we have a case where they are actually reducing the off-site flow. They have an entitlement to the flow of their water off their land across Decatur Farms by law. So why are we fighting this? Why are we saying no? Why are we not allowing a stormwater management plan to address the issue and we're not going to increase the flow on Decatur Farms? I think we're setting a real bad precedent on this.
If I may speak to that point.
I'd like to hear that.
Okay, let me introduce myself for everyone who is not aware. My name is Sharon Cruz. I'm with Davis, Bowen & Friedel, and I am the town's planning consultant. Regarding the discharge of stormwater onto adjacent property, according to Chapter 26, Section 26-106 in your town code, it requires that it is the responsibility of the developer to obtain from adjacent property owners any easements or other necessary property interests concerning flowage of water. So it is a code requirement that they obtain this permission or easement.
Is this a new code provision? Because we've done several projects over the past few years in Berlin and never got this comment before. Most notably most recently was the Hebron Bank that's under construction up on 50.
From my reading of the code with any changes and ordinances, this is not a new section in the code.
Could I trouble you for the exact reading of that language again? I didn't quite catch it.
Absolutely. Section 26-106, which is direction of runoff responsibility. If a stormwater management plan involves direction of some or all runoff off of the site, it is the responsibility of the developer to obtain from adjacent property owners any easements or other necessary property interests concerning flowage of water. Approval of a stormwater management plan does not create or affect any right to direct runoff onto adjacent property without the property owner's permission.
My understanding of that reading, though, is if there's stormwater management plan calls, we're talking about natural water flow.
Yeah, I think there's several ways.
Is there a
of-
difference in that?
I think you could, I'm the same, my reaction is the same as yours. I think there's several
They
ways
didn't
to
cause the
interpret
flow, the flow is natural. I understand if they were doing it, yeah, in runoff, that's a trespass, I get that. But if it's natural water flow, it's not their stormwater plan, it's God's.
However, with any development, any changes to a property that impacts your flow of water, there is no distinction in the code as to whether it is a natural flow or a development flow.
Well,
This,
I'm sorry.
yeah, please go ahead.
No, you go ahead if you want to say. I'm sorry.
So without a specific distinction, because this is your code for development, for stormwater management, for any development within the town limits, I can't, grant the right that whether it's natural or whether it's created flow here, I cannot create that distinction.
Well, the flow that exists today is the flow that's going to exist to the same flow point. They're not, it's going to be the same flow, actually, it's going to be reduced flow under this stormwater.
Yeah, that's what I thought, I just understood.
It's reduced by
You're actually
40%.
reducing it.
And so they're not changing or impacting Decatur Farms at all, other than reducing the flow that naturally exists. I don't see the code as going that far. But on rough reading, listening to it orally, I think there's several ways of looking at that.
Yeah,
So-
May I speak to one thing about that? Because this is just the only thing I can think of. So there is a 5-acre parcel to the west of my property. It's zoned right now where you can build roughly 8 to 10 units, front doors, townhouses per acre. So it's roughly 45 to 50 units, roughly. So when that gentleman wants to develop his property, and his water is going to flow through me to get, because it's all going the same way, because God has it set up that way right now. So as soon as you disturb more than 5,000 square feet in your stormwater management plan, as soon as you do that, then you get kicked into this category. So he's got 5 acres. Best I can tell, let's just say, for example, I'm a hard-headed, frustrated guy. I leave here, I get told no, go home. And then he wants to develop his property. I'm an angry guy. And he asks, can he flow his through me? I say no. He says, I'll pay you 50, 60, 70, or 100,000, whatever. No, thank you, sir. Now, his 5 acres, he can build roughly 3, 4, 5, 1,000 square foot front doors. And that whole 5 acres has been reduced to 3 to 5 units. I wonder, and I'm not angry, I'm really not. But, somebody was a lot younger than me and ready to rock and roll. I wonder if they wouldn't get together and say, I think I'm experiencing a takings. And I don't know where the lawsuit goes, but I'm not interested in any of that. I'd rather quietly go away and subdivide my lots into a couple of things and stuff. I mean, I bought this property certainly to be respectful to the town of Berlin, not do anything that they didn't want to do. That's of course why we come here and get, the first thing I brought in, the guys and the girls said, man, that doesn't look very good. Can you come back with a better looking plan? I went to Chris Patey, who some of us know, and came back with a better looking plan. They said, hey, wow, that looks nice. Keep going. So we kept going and we kept going. And, finally, like 50% of the way through the money I spent and the project that was being done, I got told, hey, by the way, you're going to have to get an easement. Well, I already know that there's roughly, and I say I know, I'm rounding now. There's 60, 70 houses in Decatur Farms roughly. That's 60 or 70 people from anywhere from God's Creek, whoever in North Carolina to New York, say, lives there. And they've got an HOA, and they've got a board of 6 to 8 people. And I've got to go to them and convince 8 people to please let me flow more water. At least that's the interpretation. Let me flow more water to you.
No, not flow more, flow some water. Continue to flow less than
less
that.
than the
flow.
interpretation.
The interpretation they would have is, oh, this is going to flow on our
Right.
property.
So you're just not going to get 8 people to agree to go to Ruth Chris for dinner tonight, let alone flow more water to the property. So the attorney that represents them, we all know, he's a wonderful person. I saw him on the golf course. I said, this is going to die on instantaneously, they're going to say no. He said, no, Larry, I don't think they will. I said, well, who do we address the letter to? He told me, I sent the letter. I mean, we hit send, and it was, thank you, no. I mean, it was like a 3 or 4 word sentence that said, no, thank you, no need for further discussion, see you. Again, still not mad, I just figured, I'll just go.
This is exactly why I'm concerned about this issue, because of the guy who's upstream from you, who's gonna get ripped off like you got ripped off.
Pete, can I talk about that real quick?
Sure.
So my concern is, as you say, in the future, you now hold that guy's property hostage.
Yeah.
And that's, one property that we know of. In an element where he could be putting a giant stormwater system and flowing 0 to you, compared to whatever he was. But you hold him hostage. Therefore, if his property as a buildable lot's worth $1 million, you could build your 5 little 1,000 square foot townhouses, or I'll buy it for $300,000, because without me, you're doing nothing.
Right.
So I'm fearful, like as you say, as a precedent, that a smart investor could just start buying random lots around town and holding future developers hostage in an element that doesn't make sense.
Or the landowners come together and say, we feel like we're experiencing takings of property rights, of property value.
Right.
And I think you got some property, but I think the town, whoever, wherever it lays, I think there's a problem with somebody. I'm a path of least resistance guy. I've developed 20, 30 properties through the last 30 years. And I've always gone to the planning and zoning people and said, well, can I do this? And they would say yes. Like the manager, can I do this? Yes. Can I do this? No. Okay, I'll go back here. Because I always try to avoid the planning and zoning meetings because I didn't want to get in the hubbub. So I always just did the path of least resistance. It was just an easier way for my personality to function. So that's why I retreated to this more minimal, because I don't want to fight anybody.
Regardless of whether you want to proceed with what you did planned before or not, I think the town ought to be taking a good hard look at this, and perhaps it's necessary, amend the code and clarify what it means, because this is a bad
I
precedent.
mean, you are spot on. Like you can't read that and not acknowledge that you're spot on.
Yeah, I mean, common law has some bearing here. You have rights. You have rights to flow the water off your land, and you're
The guy else
reducing
he doesn't want to be captured by me.
Right. Well, I mean, that's my real concern. Like, I care about your project, but the next 50. Because like I said, a smart investor could just start pigeonholing properties. And
Buy
using
the
that stuff.
closest one to the outfall, and then
Goes
go
down
upstream.
to the spike fence.
I'm sorry.
If your neighbor, you put the spike fence up, he's got to buy your property and get rid of it.
If I may make a distinction in the terminology as far as flowing less water, was the original design flowing at a lesser rate?
Yeah, it was the peak flow rate.
Okay.
Reduction in peak flow rate.
So just as a distinction for the commission members, flowing at a lesser rate is a compliance. You're flowing slower than the existing conditions. That does not mean you are discharging lesser volume of water in the developed condition. And that is where the distinction may lie. Because your property owners downstream, they're receiving the water less quickly, but they're receiving typically more water, unless it's proved that the volume of water being discharged onto that downstream property is a lesser amount.
Does your data give you an answer to that in this
You
particular
mentioned a
case?
40% reduction.
I would have to review it, but all I know is that the flow rate was reduced by 44%.
But not necessarily the volume.
Are
It's
you
okay.
able to produce a volume?
I could, yeah, I think I could.
If you were able to determine volume, would that tend to alter the town's opinion in this case?
I am not the stormwater consultant for the town, but that may be definitely a point of discussion with the town's stormwater consultant. Because the provision in the code is to protect the downstream properties from a situation where you're receiving more water and it is flooding out.
Well, we understand that, that's common law. It's just
Absolutely.
We have this mix between the common law and stormwater plans now in the modern world, and I just think we need to clarify exactly what we mean, what we intend. I don't think it's clear from the code, quite frankly.
It's definitely worth presenting to the stormwater management consultant. I can definitely take care of that.
If I may ask a hypothetical, let's go to his neighbor. If they had developed first, would they then have had to get an easement from Mr. Davis?
If they had developed after the section in the code was in effect, then based on this reading, they would have had to get his permission, yes.
So they would have two easements. They would have to have Mr. Davis and then Decatur Farms, correct?
If the ultimate discharge, that is a possibility. It depends on how far downstream the situation is. Typically, it is the immediately downstream property.
I know just one other project that this has come up because I'm friends with Mr. Selwyn, but our residence happens to be behind his property that he was developing on Gay Street, if you guys recall that project. And our property on West Street has a little bit of overlap, and I remember he had to come to us and ask about it, and I believe there was 3 other residential properties that he had to address. And I don't know what the status of that project is, but that was never discussed here. I think that was just a requirement. That's the only way I know about it, just because I'm friends with him. But I don't know, do we know what the outcome of that was as a precedent for that being enforced? Because that was the first time I ever had heard of it being enforced.
What project was that?
The multi.
Oh, the Selway
Street.
building?
Yeah.
I don't know what the outcome was of that. No. It was approved, but I don't know about that issue.
Yeah.
So ultimately, if the current interpretation of the code holds up, or the current code holds up, my property is roughly 2.5 acres. There's 3 structures on it. 2 of them are, pushing 80, 90 years old, and they look like it. The only thing I can do is remodel them and walk away.
And that doesn't help the town. The project you proposed, I liked it.
Well, like, this just doesn't pass, like, the smell test. It's, like, you listen to what this is, and if the water discharge rate, and I get it, what we're hearing is that the peak flow rate, but if we've created potentially less movement of water into an adjacent property, it's hard to understand, and I'm not a stormwater guy, but it's hard to understand the argument here, because you're potentially improving a system.
I think Ms. Cruz explained it well. At least if we could demonstrate that we're flowing less volume, versus just the speed of the water. I think that's a great way to
The
help
velocity
me
has also
understand
been
it.
reduced because the flow rate was reduced, so.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, like I said, I'm kind of reduced to, I could probably get away with building one small duplex on the property and remodel what's there.
Do you have any interest in pursuing that project if the town willing to reevaluate and give it some more thought? I mean, are you just at the end of your road?
I'd have to say probably 80% of me would probably say, yeah. I'd have to drop back and think about it for a minute. So, I don't have partners. I have lenders, private lenders. They're pretty ticked off with me. So, they thought I should have seen this coming. And, the road's roughly 600,000. So I gotta kind of see if I can get them in a good mood. I had them in a good mood the last go around. They were happy. They were ready to go. But once I explained to them why this wasn't moving forward, they became disturbed, and whether I could get them back in the mood would really sway my horsepower.
Okay, so regardless of that, I think the town should take a look at this and think about this issue and decide whether we think we need to amend the code to deal with reality on water flow. I mean, you've heard the philosophical concerns we have about what could happen with other properties. And I just think that needs to be addressed in a fair way in the code, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you're saying Decatur, they won't even entertain a meeting or anything?
No, and I'm an open book. I don't blame them. If I was them, I'd be like, well, what's the advantage for you throwing more water on me? But I can share the email with you that we sent in the response. You know, Jason and Chris orchestrated a nice long letter that explained it well. And I'm telling you, we got a 5, like I said, I'm an open book. I'd be happy to share the email with you. It took me like, 0.5 seconds to read the email, and I knew, I was just not surprised. I just thought, well,
I'm sorry for that distraction. I guess we can get back to the issue tonight, but I do think the town ought to look at this and think about this. And if we can get you to resurrect that project, I'd sure like to see it happen.
well, with preliminary approval, does that eliminate the old project?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think just two options.
Because it really gets down to me sitting back in front of my folks, and their feeling is at the moment, as the developer, I should have done this. I should have seen this coming. So,
Well, if you could do an analysis on water flow to see, make sure it's not increasing water flow.
Let's look at the volume, that'd be it.
Yeah, whatever you engineers call this thing.
it's called billable hours.
I think that brings up a separate issue, though. If the town doesn't have a definition of runoff, then what is your volume going to tell the town? I think in addition to us addressing the code, there needs to be a definition of what that runoff threshold is. Is a certain percentage of volume decrease sufficient for this project to be allowed outside of what the code says requires an easement? And that's, again, probably going to the stormwater.
Kind of clarification.
But runoff is very vague. If there's not an existing definition of runoff in the town code, then that's up to interpretation, which I think is unfair to say you're not meeting some runoff threshold expectation when we haven't defined runoff in the code. There's no number. Right. So if we have a volume number come back, how do we say whether that's good or bad if we haven't defined what the runoff threshold should be in expectation of this development? So I think there's a separate issue for the town to address here.
And how does it get before you?
I guess that's the question. How can we get this issue to actually be considered by the town? Is that a staff issue, or
Are we putting that a burden on the applicant?
As far as, the stormwater volume issue,
Well, that, once you get the data, and also looking at the code and thinking about it a minute, about the impact, the potential impacts on future development for upstream developers. Even downstream developers might have to have an issue. Decatur Farms, sitting here brainstorming this, thinking, well, under some circumstances, maybe Decatur Farms would have had to come to him and say, we're going to flow from your property, will you give us an easement? I mean, this could be a reverse situation as well, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's awkward that, where I sit now, if I wanted to develop another piece of property, I know the first question I need to ask is, where does my water ultimately land? And can I talk to them about would they give me an easement? That's the first question I need to ask before I spend a dime. Because if they tell me no, then I know not to do anything.
Right.
But like you said, as a business owner or as a HOA, you're just going to say no. They're not going to be like, well, yeah, sure, let's talk about it. Why? Then they're only risking. They have almost zero to gain. And that's my concern, is that, all future developments have this new issue hanging over their head.
I think that's an odd question to be the first question.
No doubt. Yeah.
I think so how do we initiate a discussion with the town about the impact on this project? And also, does the code really work right now in a fair way?
so obviously, the discussion on this particular project as far as the stormwater management would need to be held in conjunction with the town's stormwater management consultant. As far as any code-related issues, that would be something that would necessarily be started on the staff level to evaluate the code for compliance with state regulations, because obviously any stormwater information in your code has to first and foremost be in compliance with the state stormwater regulations. And then with the internal discussions moving forward as to what are the implications of the code as it is written now, and are there ways to clarify the code for better information for any potential developers with projects,
And also to
their
make,
engineers.
and also to make the code flexible enough to deal with reality. We just don't want developers to have to go to a downstream neighbor and get an easement when they are showing that they can handle the water flow or, you know, within the parameters.
Can't the town override a decision that's actually made by Decatur Farms?
I don't think so. no.
I don't believe you can, it's private property.
If you could show proof, like they're saying, then why couldn't the town override their decision? Because they could just keep saying no as much as you just keep pushing information to them. I would think that there's got to be a certain point where we should be able to supersede or override anything that they may say.
I think the best solution there, or if the town were to try to go over someone's head regarding our period, would be, they would have to deal with the consultant who is EA engineer. Just say like, we're not gonna, pay attention to this code provision, or we're gonna throw out this comment on your comment letter, and everything else is approved, then the project can go ahead.
I think
Because really, that's all we have left to do is basically that comment.
if you want to not have to address it again, I think you're looking at really changing the ordinance.
Well, that's it. I
Yeah,
want
that's
this to be
right.
a one and done, not a,
That's
please,
what-
please ask for permission type
You
thing.
know, because I can tell you that I'm easy to get along with, and the guy to the west of me, I would give him an easement. But if I sold or died and somebody else owned the property, you want it to go be with the property, not the particular owner at the time.
Giving a veto authority to a downstream property is problematic, and it ought to be well-defined about when that comes into play. And I don't think our statute on that rough oral hearing of it tonight that I heard is as clear as we need to get it. That's my thinking.
I agree. And I think the definition of runoff too, because we're talking about the change of natural flow, which they're not impeding or modifying. So I think in my opinion, it's a question of whether the easement's required in general. Is this code applicable here? Are you actually causing runoff? In my opinion, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm wondering too, I'd have to look at the code though.
Right.
Read
There's
it
no
a few
definition
times.
of that.
I just read it for the first time tonight, so I'm not.
Because that's how I interpret it. Without a definition of runoff, you're not causing additional or change of the natural flow of the property. So, in my opinion, there is no issue of easement or the code coming into play.
Well, perhaps there isn't, just based on who's interpreting the
Exactly,
code,
right.
you know, and it shouldn't be that way, it should be more precise.
So as a planning commission, can we make a recommendation to push this up the ladder to the right people to investigate and start figuring out yes, no, whatever the answer is in concern with this ordinance?
Eric, what would you like to see tonight? Do you still want to?
I would still like to pursue the
Getting this.
preliminary subdivision. That way, if my guys say we're not able to get comfortable again with the whole freight, at least I've got
Got that.
this moving in the right direction.
So back to that, what block, said it was only block 1 had or no, block 2 had a structure on it?
So there are
On
existing
ground.
structures on 1, 4, and 3.
Okay, thank you.
2 is the only lot that would be vacant.
And so with this, you're looking for single-family homes.
On that, I can do single-family homes or duplexes,
And renovating the
Or you
existing
can just remodel
structures.
the.
or I can remodel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I can only say that if you do a duplex project, it's certainly isn't going to be as nice as what you've already proposed, you're just salvaging something.
Yeah, that was real nice looking, what you had going on.
Are you going to need a stormwater plan for this re-subdivision?
If we exceed 5,000 square feet of disturbance, we will have to do that, and Stephen, the engineer with EA, has already said that it will be we will be required to meet that easement criteria if we do that.
So are you able to develop these?
Well, but the thing is,
Well, can I answer that?
Yeah.
It's called BS gamesmanship. I can sell a lot to my wife, she can go do one. I can sell one to my dad, he can do one. And this isn't really promoting this isn't, really what I'm saying really isn't
There's-
helping my cause, but I'm so frustrated, I'd rather just put myself in a position of being told, you can't do anything. Just go remodel those existing homes, and 30 years from now, your children will worry about it. Or get to the meat of it. So, yeah, or because if the EA engineering smells that Eric Davis is the guy trying to do it, 3,000 on this lot, 3,000 on this lot, 3,000 on this lot, that's 9,000. Hey, that's a comprehensive plan. You're gaming the system, man. So I can do some real, like I said, create an LLC, sell one to my wife, blah, blah, blah.
So what you're saying is
I
that
can be right back in the same
of these,
boat.
okay, of these 4 lots, if one lot develops now and has how much disturbance will one lot have?
That can't exceed that.
4,000 to 5,000
Well,
probably.
each lot would have about 3,000 to 3,500 square feet of disturbance.
Okay, so then the next lot, you'd be over the 5,000.
Well,
But you wouldn't be.
But not
Would
individually.
be after it's different owners.
yeah,
But
if I sold one to Dirk and one to you,
So it's not
I
cumulative.
believe,
We can
no,
all go-
I believe it is cumulative, and I believe they will treat this as a common development, as if you have 2,000 feet of disturbance on each lot, they're gonna look at it as 8,000.
even if it was like a
Even
year
if they're separate
apart.
owners.
So the first guy's gonna come in, use up 4, the next guy comes along, they're gonna say, well, you got a lot.
Yeah.
And then the third guy can't build on the one lot.
So you think that's how it works?
I believe that's how they will treat this.
Correct.
Sharon,
Is that a
why-
correct interpretation of the?
Do you guys have anything?
After speaking with Stephen from EA today, the way I understand it is that each lot is individual.
Okay.
So really, we're not adding all 4 lots together.
Okay.
The only lot that he really was questioning is Lot 1 because of the proposed new driveway.
So we have, so
He does not
So it's
feel
not
like the other Lot 2 through 4 will be over 5,000 square feet.
So the only thing going on lot 1, the one with the driveway, is the driveway?
Yeah.
'Cause the other- and this is a question I was thinking about. Is there a type of material you use for a driveway that's impervious?
They use it in Salisbury. If they use it for tracks, you should know your track start. It's almost a rubber asphalt material that is porous. Now, I don't know
The only thing is.
the percentage of that or whatever, whether they allow it or not, but
Trying to stay.
it looks like asphalt.
So the driveway for lot 1 is approximately 2,500 square feet.
Oh, okay. So we're under
So-
we're under 5,000.
And everything else here that's on site is already existing impervious, so it wouldn't be disturbed.
Okay.
So, the town is not gonna look at this as a cumulative affair if we subdivide this.
Correct.
So then you're gonna have that much disturbance affecting the Decatur farms, but we're just doing it like you said, we're going through the back
Well,
door.
I think when it's done like this, I think the water doesn't go to Decatur Farms, it goes to the street.
Everything from lot, everything from lot 1, based on the contours, it still flows to the south. So it will eventually make its way into their property.
Even the lots on the front.
But I'm just talking about lot 1, everything back there.
Yeah, the lots on the
Lots
front
2, 3, and
go to the
4, the
street.
majority of their runoff is going to go into the right of way and basement.
So those front lots would not go to
No.
Decatur Farms. They go to the street.
Which causes its own problems. Not for you, but causes its own problems long-term for the town and for,
And I don't-
where's that water gonna end up? once they go-
Single-family homes, I mean, I think overall, we would probably be reducing the impervious area on the site, because the site as it sits is a lot of dirt cover. And if you build houses there, you're gonna have grass and landscaping that is gonna absorb a lot of that water. So I think it's gonna reduce runoff anyway.
Yeah, the driveway is there now, it's like one big
Yeah.
slate of concrete,
It's just-
even though it's just dirt, it's just been driven on
So
so
it's
many
been
times.
compacted to 110%.
Gentlemen, I think we have to address was before us tonight.
Okay, that's what we're doing.
And
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
I agree, I think the issue, I agree that it should be addressed by the town. I think they're, personally, from just listening to this, and I'm not an engineer, but I'm hearing from the engineer, there is a way to quantify not only the volume of water, but the rate of water. And it certainly be something that I think, as long as we can meet the state standards, because I'm sure they preempted from us, but if there was a quantification of that, if you exceed X, whatever, then you have to get the easement. But if you don't exceed those numbers, you don't need an easement. That would allow a developer to be able to determine through his engineer, without going to his neighbor to find out whether he has to get an easement. And then he can make that determination in his due diligence whether to buy that parcel or not. If he finds out that what his project's looking, or what he proposes to do would exceed those numbers, and he would then need the easement, then he could walk.
Right.
Versus not knowing this, buying it, and having us tell him, oh, you need an easement, right?
Yeah.
100%. And I agree, I don't like the idea of your neighbor controlling I think that should be more for the government.
There's two levels of discussion here. One is asking the town to look at this.
Right.
And think about whether we need to amend this code.
Right.
The issue for tonight, approve the subdivision. If he chooses to just get rid of this and move on, God bless you. And it's a loss to the town, is all I can say.
And Eric, is that what you're asking for?
Yes.
I'll move that we approve the subdivision.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you. Thank you. I hope the town can find a way to make this first project work.
Eric, obviously you have our support if there's anything you
Well, I
need.
appreciate that very much, and I will, even explain the meeting to my investor and lender, that may add some color to, we were a little bit blindsided.
I'm really sorry for what happened to you.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and appreciate your cooperation. We'll keep on working.
I say, we're public right here, and no one's here. They're on Facebook, though.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. This means we have a
Have the official information.
Any comments from staff? I have no comments for the first time in a while. Anyone else have anything they want to talk about?
We talked about the sidewalks.
Yes, sure. Dirk would like to talk about this. No, you want to? Okay. Take a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, guys.
Well, I was saying that explain this. I had this through the council. This is what we're going to create. My client had a parcel on 13 North